DJ and PK proudly presented by our title sponsor, Black Desert Resort, Utah's premier golf resort. And we're joined now by David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz. David, good morning.
Good morning. No Patrick Kinahan this morning?
Easing into a 3-day weekend, 4-day weekend. You know what I mean? He'll be back.
Seems so smart. But I wanted to talk about his favorite player, tennis player, Danielle Collins.
Go ahead, please. Hold forth.
Well, I mean, she's like doing PK-esque things, like, yelling at crowds, getting booed, loving it. Really, I thought PK had found his soulmate.
Kind of a little Jersey attitude there on the tennis court, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I thought maybe, it's happening in Australia, so nobody really knows what's going on because it happens at 3:40 in the morning. But
right. Middle of the night, middle of the morning kind of stuff.
Yeah, but I thought, PK could have some fun with it. How are you, David?
Good. How are you?
I'm good.
Camped out in New Orleans for the weekend.
Yeah, for a long time. Weird.
Yeah, it is odd because usually it's 2 games in 3 days. This is 2 games in 4.
Right.
A little sitting around. There is a development that is so new, it probably can't even really be analyzed. But Keontae George, who's played a lot of point, initiated the offense, had the ball in his hands. With Collier's emergence, how about him as the off guard getting 22 shots against Charlotte? That FGA number caught our attention. That is a big number. Is that something we're going to be sustained? What does his role look like if he's going to be on the court with Collier?
Well, I think the first thing is we have to understand that I think the second leading scorer for the Jazz that night was Walker Kessler, right? So I'm not sure. I'm not sure that that 22 is a realistic number. I think there's. I think it had to do with who we have as our personnel at that time. What I think is interesting, and it's a very small sample size. I think they've spent 130 minutes on the floor together this year, so that's not very many. But in that time period, Keontae's taken 58 shots. His effective field goal percentage, which weighs 3-point shooting, is 59.5.
For people who don't know, that's very good, right?
Yeah, the league average is about 53. His effective field goal percentage when he's been without Collier, so when he's playing the point guard, is 47.8 or 47.9. So 59.5 to 47.9. It's a little. There's a stat we can look into, which is someone's shot quality, and the shot quality is not dramatically different. So it feels like this is just a small sample size theater, but maybe there's something to it.
Keontae George might need to be buying lunch for Isaiah.
Yeah, maybe the more important one is that in 5 of their 10 best games at taking care of the ball are with Collier point guard. And he's only started 8 games.
Small sample size, but that's definitely...
That one doesn't feel like a small sample size to me.
You're already ready to bet on it.
There's reasons why Isaiah Collier
is in the NBA.
Yeah, and there are reasons why he's probably not ready to be a starting point guard. But if you're trying to fix the turnover issue, the fact that our best game, second best, fifth best, seventh best, and 10th best games are all when Isaiah Collier was playing point guard, and he's only started 8 games. That one I think is telling.
I guess the only reason I would pump the brakes on that is that if you're seeing it for the first time, that stat for the first time, so are NBA coaches, and then how do they adjust? But it is what he does, and it is why he is here. He's not here for his shooting. That needs to improve, but his ball handling, that assist-turnover ratio, it looks great. It really, especially you look over the last couple of weeks, it looks really good.
No, and you make a great point. I mean, it's incredible what happens to these guys when they have, a loud game that the league sees how fast the league adjusts. I don't know if you follow me on socials or which of the 17 socials you might follow me on, but I posted about Dalton Connect. He's done almost nothing since the night he went off against the Utah Jazz. He goes crazy in back-to-back games against New Orleans and Utah, and the rest of the league was like, oh, okay, we'll make sure that doesn't happen again.
I guess the thing that surprises me most about that is how long, and technology helped, no doubt about it, is at how long it took for these NBA staffs to really explode. You know, the sheer numbers of people wearing golf shirts sitting behind the bench. And the fact that when it really took a leap forward with Mark Cuban when he bought the Mavericks, everyone laughed about having 10 assistant coaches. But the amount of detail that lets you dive into in a sport where there's a gazillion possessions and yet 1, 2, or 3 of them can easily decide the game. And so you're just playing the numbers, right? You defend and you defend the right way. And these guys are such shot makers. Usually it doesn't matter. But the one time out of 10 that it does matter, that's a whole difference in the game. And so to dive into these details with all these guys, and they've moved them now, but for a while, the guys with the computers, nameless, faceless, didn't say a word, didn't know who they were. They barely even looked up at the game. I don't know what they were data mining sitting in the row behind us, but they were there, and then suddenly they were gone. They must have built a room for them somewhere. You're looking for those edges, and that's why Dalton Knecht goes nuts and thinks, I've got the NBA figured out, and now can't get a shot.
I thought we even saw it with Kyle, right? Kyle had a pretty good game against San Antonio. He used that spin move 2 or 3 times. I think he's gotten that spin move once the rest of since then.
The ability now that the Jerry Sloan, Rick Majerus, Roger Reed era coaches didn't have, the ability now to sit down and just send a text to somebody and say, I need to see every shot that so-and-so took from this spot on the floor. And later that day, you're watching every shot so-and-so took from this spot on the floor. Done.
Yeah, I sometimes think this is the problem in scouting, that you sit down and you watch just so-and-so's pick and rolls, and you don't see the context of the game. Obviously, you would hope you have scouts that have out and done that, and I'm not. But I think that, okay, so I'm just going to hold that comment. I think that's true. That the efficiency of synergy, or second spectrum, allows you to do exactly what you just said. I also think loses the context of the game. Like, there's just been so many players over the years who I've seen drafted, and I'm like, did they watch them play the whole game? Because, the highlights are certain plays look great, but, like, not running up the floor doesn't show up on synergy.
Right.
Right? Or not interacting with your teammates doesn't show up. Like, you still got to, like, I'm a numbers guy, but you still got to scout a player. I mean, most people, there's very few teams that are just relying on synergy, but you can become reliant on synergy. And I think in the draft process, as it's going on, you can become reliant on synergy. Like when the scouting's over and you're into June and you're trying to get the last look at someone, you can really become reliant on it.
We've been talking about the fact that the lottery odds, obviously you want to have the best lottery odds and all that, but it's still, there's just this huge amount of luck factored into whether you move up to 1, 2, or 3. The real prize here might be, hey, if you have the worst record, which the Wizards have and which the Wizards seem determined to hold on to, there's still a 48% chance that they'll draft 5th. But they can't fall to 6, 7, 8, 9.
Right.
The Jazz are sitting in the 5th spot. They could drop. Actually, the odds are they'll drop to 6 or 7. That's actually the best odds. And there's only a 0.6% chance of dropping to 9th, and they can't drop to 10th. So, yes, everybody wonders if they're going to draft, who's going to draft 1 and who's going to take Cooper Flagg. But how far you fall, and you probably haven't spent a lot of time on this yet. You'll do this later. But how much does the talent in this draft change 4, 5, 6, 7, 8? By the time you get down to 8, are you trying to find 1 or 2 good players left in this draft? Is there a big range in the results you're going to get, whether you have the 4th pick or the 8th pick?
I think there is a big range between 4th and 8th.
Yeah. Given that you can whiff on any pick, including the number 1 pick, as we've seen historically, but playing the odds.
Doesn't feel like you can whiff on this number 1 pick.
Not this year.
The kid out of Illinois is getting a lot of attention and seems to be kind of the 4th player in this draft now.
Yes.
So that seemed, but, right. I mean, what is, right. But you could still whiff. Like, I think, I'm trying to think back on the last few drafts of whether or not anyone's whiffed a top 5 pick badly.
Well, I did have someone who worked in the NBA tell me, listen, people laugh about Greg Oden over Kevin Durant. And he's like, I'm here to tell you, 30 teams would have done that. Portland did, but he says you name any other team, they would have done it too. The medical stuff wasn't clear that Odin was going to fall apart like that. It wasn't. And his talent was awesome. And in that era, the way he played the game was important. So you say you can't. This is as close to a sure thing, but there's really no absolute sure thing because health can always intervene.
Well, at this point with Greg Oden, he was pretty incredible at Ohio State with Mike Conley. So
yeah,
you definitely thought he was going to be fine. Yeah. No, I was just trying to think of whether the thought I had was whether there's anything going on recently where there's been less misses early in drafts in the recent years than there has been in the past. You know, we have the Derek Williams many, many years ago. So I was just trying to think of whether or not teams have whiffed less. Brandon Miller, we saw the other night, is going to be fine. I don't know if he's going to be a star. I guess Scoot Henderson could have whiffed could have been a whiff at the third pick of the draft. So, yes, I guess teams still whiff.
The Thunder and the Cavs just played for the second time, and I thought there was a little urgency there for Oklahoma, the city that screams, we're not letting these guys get in our heads. There'll be no psychological advantage of they beat us twice. They had more urgency. They get the win. So now it's 1-1. They split at home. I don't know how much the regular season carries over to the postseason, but I suppose you don't want to take any chances. Do you think these two are going to meet in the final? Because if they don't, then obviously this doesn't matter at all.
I don't think they're going to meet in the finals, only because I just think the separation between the best teams at the top and this kind of next tier teams is not as wide as it once was, and so I just will take the field. There's not many weaknesses on Oklahoma City, but I do think Denver or Dallas might get them. Denver is just so bad when Jokic gets off the floor, so if they can somehow solve that, it's such a different thing. I do think Dallas still has the components when everyone gets healthy. I think Boston could easily beat Cleveland. I think they're, I know they're not playing well right now, but and then I think, I just think maybe not because they just haven't put it together. Cleveland gets Milwaukee early in the playoffs. I don't know what I think happens on that. Maybe Milwaukee's just not there yet, and Chris Middleton's just not quite good enough. Evan Mobley's so good right now, and that's really important. What Lou Dort did to Donovan last night was, there aren't many players in the league that can do that. The whole concept of Cleveland is if you do that to Donovan, then Garland can go off, and then there was enough defense from Oklahoma City that didn't happen. So I thought that was interesting. But that is the whole concept. If you try to take one of those guys away, the other one can do it. So I still think Denver, Dallas, Oklahoma City. I've watched Houston and Memphis a lot recently, and they're both terrific, but I don't buy either of them as a playoff team now.
Because?
I watched the last 9 minutes of all close games, and Memphis plays this really unique style. I know it's bad English, so they play a unique style in which they're only running 35 picks a night. Phoenix runs 90 to lead the league. The league averages 68 a game. And they're only running 30, and they're playing super fast, and they're offensive rebounding, and they're doing these things really, really differently. And they spread the floor 5 wide and drive the lanes. And then when it gets late in the games, they go to a high pick and roll. It's not who they are. They can't play the same way they're playing the first 43 minutes in the final 5 minutes of an NBA game right now. And so they don't look great in that setting. And I think their clutch numbers are pretty bad. Houston, I do like a lot of what they're doing, and they have a lot of neat answers. Like the other night, they were playing Memphis, and Memphis was trapping Jalen Green because he was hot, or kind of showing on Van Vliet, and then Şengün flashes to the middle of the floor and conducts out of there, and Amon Thompson's in the dunker, and they're kicking it out. They just aren't good enough shooters in a playoff series, I don't think. And they're just getting a lot of those kind of extra points I don't think you get in the playoffs. They actually remind me a lot of Memphis of 3 years ago, the team the Jazz beat in the playoffs. So I just don't think either of those teams are quite ready for playoff basketball. So I think it's Dallas, Denver, Oklahoma City is the 3 teams in the West right now that I watch late game. I think are really special, know how to play, know what they're doing, have things that are pretty unanswerable. So I think that's, and frankly, in some extent, it's just who has a top 10 player. It still comes down to that a little bit. New York's really interesting to me. One, I can't believe how many minutes they're playing. Huh. And so you do wonder if they're going to wear out. But they're pretty good. And they really have every answer imaginable on the offensive end. Like, they have every answer imaginable on the offensive end. I don't know how you guard them. Like, I don't think you can. I think you have to be willing to switch your big onto Jalen Brunson and let your small play tight on Karl Anthony Towns to take away his pop. And then if they roll Towns into the post, you deal with that. But you're also now dealing with your big on Jalen Brunson, which isn't great. So they've really got an offensive juggernaut there.
Lakers, Warriors, Suns, there's big stars on all those teams. They're on TV a lot. They're also all around 500. Is there anything they can do, internal development, trade deadline, or are they destined to sit around 500 and be done in the postseason pretty quickly, despite their star power?
Let me isolate Lakers, Warriors, because if you listen to Locked On Jazz at all, or if I think with you guys on the air, like, everyone was talking about the offseason, and that to me was the biggest story of the offseason. Was that the Lakers and Warriors were going into the regular season with LeBron and Steph on the back end of their careers as the 8th and 9th best teams in the Western Conference. Like, to me, that was the story of the offseason. And if you did the FanDuel odds, I think they had them like 10 and 11, if I remember correctly. And the Clippers were 12. I don't remember who New Orleans, I think, was ahead of them, who's not now. That was like, to me, that was just an incredibly stunning situation that these two teams with these guys had done nothing that fundamentally changed who they were in any way, shape, or form. Phoenix, there's just something not right. Like, I actually keep waiting for Phoenix to work because I kind of think it should.
But it doesn't.
It really doesn't. Like, the other night when we played them, how they weren't up 20 against us, I don't know. Like, they just can't stretch it. Like, Minnesota can't hold a lead right now. Their offense is not good enough to keep a lead. They go up 12 like every night, and then they drop 12 and 14-point leads every night, and then they're in a tussle late. Phoenix just can't separate. And I really don't know why. Though I really would hate to have to play Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. I used to say Bradley Beal, but maybe that's the problem, in a 4 out of 7 game series. The only thought I have on, I don't know, I'm trying to figure out Phoenix. It's got me mesmerized. Like, and in this modern era, I think Phoenix is really an important team to look at because if you do decide to spend on 2 or 3 stars, like, how are you building your roster around them? And obviously their big problem is that you can't have any wasted money. And they have wasted money in Nurkic, who they're no longer playing because he just turned out to be the use of Nurkic, DeAndre Ayton trade is like, well, I guess there's a whiff, number 1 pick. Is still such a, like, that's like one of the, like, both teams just got rid of a problem, but the problem is they gave each other a problem that's causing them disasters. So maybe that's it. You just can't waste any money there. But of those 3 teams, I still think Phoenix has got a chance to win a playoff series. When they get healthy and have Grayson and Royce, and they have the 3 guys, if Bradley Beal decides to play hard, which I guess hasn't happened in 7 years, so maybe won't. I don't know. I still partially think Phoenix is all right. David,
enjoy your long working vacation in New Orleans.
And then you know what we get for second prize?
And what would that be?
2 days in Oklahoma City where it's 21 degrees. You know what you get for a third prize?
What's that?
4 days in Oklahoma City.
Anybody who thinks that people who travel with teams aren't aware of the weather every time they go on a road trip, I've had fans tweet at me, no, that was about the big games. I'm like, I bet it wasn't. But whatever. That's fine. Right. That was Mike Folta, the hockey guy. They're going to play some big teams and big games. Well, they're losing the home games. I don't know if any games are any bigger than others when you're in a slide. But I bet he knows he's going to Ottawa in the dead of winter. So there's that.
You do have to pack for these things.
100%.
Oklahoma City, 21 degrees, is the first time I've ever packed and was like, yeah, I'm staying inside.
Absolutely.
Like I can't sit still, as you're probably aware.
I am.
So I'm never in a hotel room, and I'm always out walking or always doing something or always going somewhere. And since there's nothing to see, and it's 21 degrees and probably colder than that because of how windy it is, I don't think I'm leaving the hotel for 2 days in Oklahoma City.
Good plan. Stick with that. We will think of you, David. Thanks for joining us.
Right. I'll talk to you next Friday. See you,
David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz. We're taking a break. When we come back, here they come, NFL playoffs. Think about this during the break. Not just who are winning the games, but if you do the old confidence pool, who you putting 4 points on? Which game are you putting 1 point on? I think those are super clear. We'll get to that next. Stay with us.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
Christian's never seen Almost Famous because you and I are both ancient. One of the best movies ever. And Earl is the lead singer. Jason Lee.
Jason Lee. Who started his career as a professional skateboarder. Do you know that? He's like one of the greatest skateboarders of all time. And was like, I'm going to shift into being a big-time actor.
Scientologist.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, cool.
What do you mean? Isn't it a well-known fact that Jason Lee is a Scientologist?
I just thought it was a little irrelevant to the story, but...
Well known to one out of the three of us.
I don't know. I was thinking of all the things that I know about Jason Lee. Ben dropped this skateboarder thing in there, which seemed fairly fascinating. I just happen to know the guy's a Scientologist. That's all.
What are you implying? About Jason Lee today.
What are you saying? I wasn't saying anything negative about him. I was just pointing it out. Scientologist.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. It is time to talk playoffs. NFL playoffs. Or who's going to beat the Chiefs while we wait for them to create NFL history? Three-peat in the Super Bowl.
Ohio State.
Ohio State. Chiefs trying to do what no one's ever done, win 3 Super Bowls in a row. Last time there was NFL champion 3 times in a row was the Packers, and the second and third time they played the Super Bowl, when they won the first of that three-peat, there wasn't a Super Bowl.
I remember that Packer run.
You do not. You do not remember that Packer run. How old are you, Grandpa?
The tundra.
The frozen tundra. Those were the days.
I know of Bart Starr.
As we run through these 4 games, it looks like 2 of them are very competitive, and 2 of them we should be able to clearly pick a winner. But is it really that obvious?
I only got one.
Kansas City.
Yeah.
You don't think Detroit over Washington is pretty clear cut?
No.
Because?
I think Jaden Daniels has some magic to him, man. I think the only thing that's going to get in his way is an injury.
Or Herm.
I don't think that Herm stifled him. I think he was just developing.
Just young, and it was early.
Yeah. And then he had to leave. I mean, I don't blame him, the situation, although his mother was involved. She's named as the booster, paying for kids, and that was seedy. But that
whatever.
What's crazy is that was just a short time ago.
Mm-hmm. And it was
they've already moved past it.
They've moved past it. The NCAA's moved past it. The Devils have moved past it.
Yeah. And
the whole thing's changed.
Without Herm, there is no Kenny.
So in a way, you had to go through that to get to this.
Amazing how what was so bleak was only for, metaphorically, a night, and then changed dramatically. It's another metaphor for life. Keep doing the right thing, and you get rewarded. I firmly believe that. So I don't think that the Lions are just going to smoke the Commanders. Now, I could be totally wrong. But no, I expect...
These are predictions. We all could be totally wrong.
Yeah.
We know that even when we're really on our game and sharp, we're only right 70% of the time.
Yeah, but I'm not talking about a winner. I'm talking about competitive game. So my standard is even lower to be able to say, I got that right.
I think the game will stay competitive from a score position, even if it doesn't feel competitive. I think it was during the Green Bay game. The announcers were saying, it's a 10-point game at halftime. Anything can happen. But it feels like a 30-point game, and like Green Bay's in a world of trouble. And they were. They lost the game. They weren't coming back. And they were saying after, it's 10-0. There's plenty of time.
Understood. I'm a big believer in mojo. And I think Washington has it. And you ride that. We've seen lesser teams.
Ride mojo.
Yeah.
You want to be in the NFL playoffs, be the best team or be the hot team.
But I don't even know that you have to be hot.
Well, I think that's just another way of saying mojo. Okay,
Well,
be the best team or be the team with the mojo.
The Cardinals were not hot.
Okay,
They got
I'll
hot
take it.
in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if that happens, then anything can happen, literally. And it's a one-game deal, man. And all these teams now obviously are proficient, and so they're all capable. But I'm going to go with the Chiefs until I see otherwise. I don't know how anybody says anything else.
They have been a different team. For all the people listening to this who have doubt, a lot of that came. They went through a couple of tackles, including the former Cougar, Simatia there. And so it didn't work. They bring in a third guy, and they are controlling the other team's pass rush. The interceptions have stopped. The last interception Mahomes threw was in the loss to Buffalo. They're sharp now.
Yeah, but they won it even without those other guys and come in. They still are winning.
And
They've got the ultimate mojo.
3 years, 6 years worth of mojo.
Yeah.
It really hasn't stopped. A couple little wobbles, but it's never fully stopped.
I think the only thing that stops it is if Andy Reid says, I've had enough. No, it was Bieniemy's offense. Oh, we took care of that one. No, it wasn't.
Nope. The enemy's gone.
It's the old guy over there.
They're still rolling.
Yeah. And Mahomes is just that good.
There are two games that I think on the surface look very intriguing and really competitive. Now, having said that, one of these may end up 45-13. But on the surface, more enthralled with the Rams going to play the Eagles or more enthralled with the Ravens going to play the Bills?
Oh, I don't think there's any question.
They both look like good games. But you're going to go
is Bills-Ravens.
Bills-Ravens.
The two leading MVP candidates, both at the top of their games. Wildly incredible athletes. You know, Tom Brady got a little bit of a knock. He wasn't this great athlete.
No one's going to say that about these guys.
Josh Allen is a great athlete.
Yep.
Go look at that picture of him, his little softball deal. And, you know, they got the fence in the outfield. They're playing in a major league dimension professional ballpark. He stands up there, and he's got a stance. And it's an open stance, so he's got his front foot open a little bit, and then, you know, it's just a lob pitch, and then he strides into it. Freaking Aaron Judge. He just destroys it. I mean, I know it's a slow pitch,
right,
but I'm just talking about the fluidity in which he swung the bat.
He's a great athlete.
Yeah.
And you can see it with the way he extends plays. You can see it when he takes off across the line of scrimmage. Sometimes he runs away from people. Sometimes he runs over people.
Right.
The only quarterback he doesn't run as well as will be the quarterback they're playing this week.
So you've got two premier teams that I would think if they were in the other conference, I'd favor each of them to get out of that conference and play the Chiefs.
You think the AFC has the three best teams in the league?
I can make a strong case for it, yes. And recognizing, and Dan Campbell's over there, yeah, do that.
Do that, right? I would just say, if you want to say they're on the same tier and if they played, anything could happen.
Well, I said that I can make a case for it. I didn't say it's overwhelming.
It's not a lock.
But and Detroit is a new kid, so we're still disrespecting them. It's not really a disrespect with Detroit. It's just a little bit of, hey, show me some more. I don't think they're being disrespected, but I think there's a level of skepticism that is fair.
And I get that. I just think there's the same level of skepticism for the Ravens and the Bills.
Yeah, they've been doing it. They've been getting to this level more often. It's the next level.
Detroit is new to the stage. This is really the second year they've been good.
Right.
But they were in the NFC title game last year. And
understood.
Buffalo has been on the stage longer, but Josh Allen has also played in one NFC title game. AFC title game.
Yeah, but that's more of a format of
running into the Chiefs so early. They've got 3 losses to the Chiefs. He's 5-2 in the playoffs when he's not playing the Chiefs. He's 5-5 in the playoffs,
right,
but he's 5-2 when he's not playing the Chiefs.
I would like to see both of these teams win, but they can't. But that's the NFL playoffs.
You want to see Chiefs Ravens. You want to see
I
Chiefs
want to see
Bills.
these two guys continue to play as long as possible. Now, the good thing is I'll see one of them play.
Can the Ravens just run the ball in a passing league? How much, and they do it differently, but how much do you trust the Ravens and the Lions, who both count on running the ball a lot? They are old school. Remind me of the Aikman, Emmitt Smith Cowboys of the 90s. They don't blow you out with a bunch of big plays and sensational, but they just beat you up play after play, and you look up and you're down 2 touchdowns.
I trust him as much as I can trust him.
You can run your way through this.
Oh, Lamar can throw the ball. Go look at his stats. They're better than when he won 2 MVPs.
Yeah.
The numbers are there.
I think it's a combination of him progressing, just you get better, and then also you got to sell out to stop the run.
But
with
they're not one-dimensional.
With he and Henry.
They can, whatever needs to be done. They needed a drive at the end of the first half, and the clock wouldn't allow you to run it. So what do? They did it. You throw it to that tight end, he runs through 14 people. I haven't seen somebody go through so many people since Ainge did it against Notre Dame.
I thought you were gonna go to the. I'm forgetting who. Oh, Eagles game.
What game?
Goater went through and the stiff arm and the throwing guys down.
And that was cool.
Yeah.
But they've got great players. Obviously. This is the number one game I'm interested in. If I rank the games I'm interested in, that's number one. Number 2 by a hair is Lions Commanders, Eagles Rams, Chiefs Titans, or Texans.
I'm surprised you're not a little more into the Eagles and the Rams.
I am.
I'm into that just because I'm stunned that the Rams are here. I mean, I was writing them off. They were 1-4. They were 5-6. And it's just like, I cannot believe they are playing. And I think they got a good shot to win to go to the NFC title game.
So
you're
do I.
talking to somebody who did not believe in them at all the first half of the season.
It's a team that's sort of been there, done that. Don't sweat the small stuff.
Yeah.
Let me just tell you something. RELAX.
Thank you very much. That's a Packer thing, not a Ram thing.
There are no
Aaron
bad
Rodgers.
starts that can't be overcome.
Yeah, they had a bunch of injuries too, so it's not that they completely sucked.
Because if you can't overcome a bad start, it's not a bad start. It's who you are.
Yeah.
And that's not who the Rams are. Just get their guys healthy. They're very good. Stafford, proven commodity.
We're getting pretty close to a Rams-Lions NFC title game. That'd be pretty entertaining. 2 quarterbacks who are traded for each other, and now here they sit on their new teams going head-to-head for a trip to the Super Bowl. We're not there yet. Give Washington and Philly their chance to derail it.
Could happen, yeah. It definitely could happen. I don't want it to happen. I want to see the Eagles. But sort of this NFC, sort of the consolation bracket to me.
All Chiefs all the time. Plus you love the next
Or
two.
Ravens Bills. This is a loaded bracket on the other side.
You think Philly, after watching them, I mean, Hurts is out so long, and maybe it was just rust. Maybe it was a great game plan from Green Bay or something, but that didn't really pass the eye test for this is what a Super Bowl champ looks like. Now they didn't have to win the title that day.
I don't think they are.
Right.
I think they're ceilinged out.
They're good, but they're not great.
Right.
And the next week or two, we're going to find that out.
They're a double-digit win team every year, do their thing, and, they play in a – obviously Washington's gotten a lot better, but
you got 4 wins
lesser
with
division.
the Cowboys and Giants. You ought to get 4 wins.
Yeah. Right. And there is
At least Dallas, the way they fell apart this year.
rivalry going on, when Prescott going down and changed things. So they're a good program, but, the pressure on them is enormous. They were booing the other day, the fans. You're in the playoff, man.
It seems like it's been this death watch for Sirianni's coaching tenure in Philly.
Yeah.
So like week 2, and they just keep winning, and people want to complain about him, and it's like you're at home in the second round of the playoffs.
When they don't win, it's Clay Helton. If you don't win, then you're gone.
Yeah.
We're just waiting. Heck, they got rid of Andy Reid. And got rid of you. Andy Reid is the Vince Lombardi of his time.
And yet they got rid of him.
Yeah. Right. So certainly, and they got rid of a guy who won the Super Bowl for him. Peterson.
Yeah, they ran him too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lurie's over there. Lurie, right? Is over there saying, your time is come and gone.
There's no patience.
No.
Philly is a win now. I mean, it is a classic Northeast city, and we know how that is, right? They have no tolerance for mediocrity. It's such of, if you do win, you are beloved beyond anything. So you got to take the good with the bad. If you win, then you'll be revered forever. Baseball Network has this documentary they did on Mike Schmidt, and he came out it was the late 70s, and he blasted the fans, and he did it on the road. And their first game back, remember there's a pitcher named Larry Anderson. He said, hey, you got to make light of it. He said, so you go out in front of the dugout and you throw, loosen your arm, after BP's been taken and it's right close to the first and the fans have been let in. So he tells Schmidt, he coaxes him into wearing a wig and sunglasses to pretend that that's not really him.
You won't boo me? You don't know who I am.
Right. So he does it, right? And fans give him a standing O.
Totally wins him over.
Right.
Man.
Now, he walks on water in Philly.
So do you think Peterson walks on water? Or Foles, who was the quarterback? Because normally the coach and the quarterback, they'd walk on water.
I mean, you got to have some tenure.
Yeah. You won it all.
Foles doesn't.
You won it all, but it was just a short-term deal.
Yeah.
Made a big splash, but
I wonder when he's done coaching, when Andy Reid goes back and they bring him out or something, are there the Chiefs without him doing the thing at the Eagles? You can argue no. Now, obviously, he cut his teeth there. So, but it's a tough place, man. There's as much pressure on them as there is on any team, even though there shouldn't be. But then, and if you pull it off, you are the grand master. Mike Schmidt, Dr. J. These guys are legends back there. Even Iverson, because he's little,
yeah.
And got him to the final.
All right, to wrap this up, if we did that old confidence, you make the picks, but make them confidence point style, I'd put 4 points on the Chiefs.
Yeah.
And I would put 1 point on the Bills. Not sure about that. I'll take the Bills.
So you go the Ravens over the Bills?
No, I'm taking the Bills, but I don't feel very confident, so I only want 1 point at stake on the game.
That's not a knock against the Bills. That's more about the Ravens.
Yes.
And that it's a great game against great teams.
That's exactly, yes. It's a great game. I can see either one of them in the AFC title game.
So I feel no differently about the Bills or the Ravens.
I'll take the Bills. Got to make a pick, get off the fence, but I'm making that the 1 point game. The Chiefs at 4. I'll make the Lions winning the 3 point game. I don't feel good about the Rams-Eagles game, but I'm going to take the Rams on the road and make it the 2 point game. So there it is.
None of what you said is outrageous, so I can't really argue. I can debate, but I can't pound you into submission.
What's the number one thing you would debate?
I don't really know that there is. I guess I would say Eagles, Rams, but I'm not coming from a position of strong and strength.
Yeah.
And it should be that way, man. We're in the playoffs. I don't want to see one team as overwhelmingly dominant. I can deal with it if that's the case in the one game. But the other three entertain me, guys. And I watched every single game this past weekend, and I want to see entertaining games, and I think I'll get them.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5, The Zone. DJ and PK reminding you to join Hans and Scotty at RGS Exteriors Tuesday from noon to 3, 4235 Farm Road in West Jordan. We're talking more NFL playoffs coming up in about 10 minutes with Kevin Graham, the Utes and the Cougars. Do you believe? We will get to that next.
Take the Zone with you wherever you go. Download the KSL Sports app to get live streaming of your favorite shows.
Downloading.
Download the latest podcasts and get all the latest breaking news on the teams you can't live without. Everything you need delivered right to your phone.
Let's go get them where we can get them.
Just search KSL Sports on your app store of choice. Download it now. The KSL Sports app, presented by University of Utah Health.
Tune in this afternoon as JJ and Alex interview Utah Hockey Club head coach Andre Torney. During the interview, listen for the keyword Ingram. That's Ingram. When you hear it, be caller 12 and win a 4-pack of tickets to Saturday's game against the St. Louis Blues. Again, tune in this afternoon. JJ and Alex on the radio home with the Utah Hockey Club, 97.5 The Zone. Got a question up on my Twitter page, David DJ James. A week ago, it was unthinkable that you people would be voting for the Utes. Yeah, I think the Utes are going to beat the Cougars Saturday night, said pretty much no one a week ago. After 3 straight blowout losses, the Utes suddenly with back-to-back wins. 36% of you now thinking the Utes are going to beat the Cougars. 64% still thinking it'll be BYU in the rivalry game. 7 o'clock, Huntsman Center, streaming only. ESPN Plus, no TV for this one, streaming only. You can vote. David DJ James got polls up on the AFC and NFC title game, and we'll talk about those with Kevin Graham next. Kevin Graham's weekly visit. We're talking football right after the break. Playoff football next.